Art became involved in the project Repairing the Present because within this project we are looking at ways to find solutions or prospects or future prototypes for the Green Deal. And that's something very close to our heart, to combine science, technology and arts in a way also to prosper for innovation spillovers. Having the STARTS Repairing the Present project gives us another possibility to create space for experimentation and to work closely not only with the artists but also with the local ecosystem, with the local expert groups, with our core fellowship members like Witteveen+Bos, Yes Delft, and of course also the Municipality of The Hague, which is our use case.
The STARTS project is very interesting for us. The artistic research that is being done there helps us to think about the future in different ways. Even though it's speculative futures we are working with, I think it's very giving to the project that the municipality is working on.
They sort of change your perspective because if you look at what the artists were bringing, they were sort of posing questions also, confronting us with ideas that we have. And I think both projects really sort of changed our perspective on how shall we look at nature in cities.
We were involved in formulating a challenge and also in selecting the artists. And now we connected the artists to different specialists within our company.
I shared my expertise on the topic of planting species, for example, but I also helped in coming up with the participation part of the project. And it was really, really cool to see how the international artists got different ideas about the city of The Hague in the Netherlands.
So we matched them to other experts. They guide them also to the different specialists with knowledge on technology or projects that we are working on. For example, also here the Municipality of The Hague.
I work for the omgevingsvisie. That's the environmental long-term vision of the city. We are making it to dream about the future of The Hague in 2050. And when you want to dream about the future and want to think about the future, you need many angles to look at the problems we face today.
Climate change, the big issue. I mean, if you can address it in any way, it's super important. And as an urban designer myself, I know that the city will be changing. It's never resting. But where?
We thought that the artistic envisioning of the artists could help us to come out of our own expertise and think more creatively.
I'm just really happy to have this within my work, to talk to artists and have all these different ideas suddenly, to be able to experience that and to think about it more broadly and outside of all the project work I do.
Innovation, it always starts by adding different perspectives, in our opinion, and also by providing room for experiments. And in our engineering company, we already have long-standing ties and interest in arts.
First of all, I think that just looking at topics, societal topics from an artistic perspective means that you will get insights that are not typical for the type of innovations we're usually looking at the Regional Development Agency. So they really have inspired me to think about the relationship between nature and, in this case, digital innovation. In a new way. And although these innovations will be quite some years from actual practical commercial use, also in science many new innovations start in this way. So I feel that maybe the most important takeaway is that we should use this artistic view more often in earlier stages of innovation processes.
The value of having all those different parties together is that we can give another perspective on how this type of innovation, next to the research and R&D labs, or within startups is of added value for future prototyping, for future visioning, and to give you information to create strategic informed decisions.
If you are working in a company or in the government or in a university, there's always business rules to stick to. And if we look at art, I think they're the most free of all trades. So they don't have these limits that they have to adhere to. And I think bringing artists is very interesting in innovation, because then you can come up with very radical things. Whereas if I talk to my partners about innovation, our suppliers, they always come with more incremental innovation. I think for the task that we have at hand, I think radical changes and radical innovation is necessary.
We hope that we get the inspiration. We also learn our engineers or our experts to open up and to look at things from a different perspective. And in the cooperation with these artists, you learn that. You develop those skills to always question your own work, to question the context in which you work.
I got inspired as well, and I also got answers for questions that I didn't know I had yet.
What's interesting about it is that it's addressing the climate change in a different way, which makes your head go a bit further.
In this project, we had the pleasure to co-host 2 STARTS residencies, Penelope Cain, with whom we collaborated on the project Repairing with Lichen, and Grow Your Own Cloud with the Urban Data Forest.
Both projects are really interesting, and what I remember of the Urban Data Forest is the way you can combine nature and trees and plants with problems about data storage. And the way we use data is so huge, becoming a huge problem also in the environmental way, because it takes electricity to store it, it needs place to build data centers. And if there are methods to make good combinations of data and forest or data and nature, then that would be a wonderful technique. And we can't envision now that it could happen in the future, but who knows, technology develops so quickly.
Urban Data Forest for me really makes the link between how we can have a new vision on the greenery in our cities. They come up with a completely new topic of a new perception of parks, a completely new concept of experiencing this green makes it super interesting for me.
Another function you add to a forest within the city, and another kind of business model to have more forest and nature within the city. And that is a good collaboration with more biodiversity. It's good to add more multifunctionality to it. And I think that's a really good point, because more greenness has so many benefits.
Urban Data Forest is looking at the intersection between nature and cloud storage. And as the Regional Development Agency, we are also interested in the future of cloud storage within our region. So we sat down together a few times and really discuss what kind of data is stored in a typical region in Europe, and how often should it be used, and what kind of considerations do commercial providers have with these kind of storage decisions. So we looked at the possibilities that the concept of grow your own cloud could have within the existing infrastructure.
One part of it is the whole ethical aspect of it, about genetically modified plants. How does that work in public space? What do we need as a society to either implement it or not? And what I find interesting is the size of it that we are thinking about for a possible future of 2050. So it's this big part of the city that should be green, or maybe already is green, and where we can implement the plants. So that big spatial claim that is being put down very explicitly in this project is quite interesting.
We have had interviews with the artists, and we were trying to find the right places for Lichen. So what are the non-used spaces in Den Haag? What would you like to address, where it's going to be growing? Or data forests, where would that forest be? So what's for example, a temporary place for it or another? So we've been really looking for places, looking for projects, locations in the city to make it quite concrete.
You look at the city differently from now on. You see more lichen everywhere, and you start seeing possibilities to keep them, for example. As an ecologist, we often work on species that are protected or there's a big interest in, for example, bees and insects now. But these lichens are really kind of a hidden species. So the whole thing about the lichen project, it came out as a species that didn't get a lot of attention, and it gives me more information as well. So now I can start using it in all my other projects as well.
Repairing with Lichen project makes you think about long term, because lichen takes a long time to grow. But when it's there, it means that you're living in a healthy environment. So it's the challenge for us to create healthy environments where people can live healthy in the long term. And that's really what makes me think about the future of our city. We need to make healthy cities.
The Lichen project is interesting because I think that really relates to the construction industry in a very direct way, because we are making those buildings that are not so green. And I think looking at how we can sort of change the design and use different materials and sort of invite nature to come to those buildings, that would be very interesting. And I think we should reach out and work with her and see what we can come up with.
Yeah, I'm very fascinated about the speculative futures approach of it, and I'm curious about how the visualizations can help us to talk about possible futures in a different way than we have done so far in our research group.
And also to see how a vision is making practical in a city and really touchable for the people living in the city. And in that way, I think the project really succeeds to involve the inhabitants again in the city and what they see and how to maintain it, and in the end also to connect all kind of dirty areas in the city together. For me, it's very interesting that the corners in the city, which are not well known and people don't want to come, we can make them greener again.
STARTS is the first European-wide initiative that brings together companies, research institutions and technologists for the sake of art. And that is pretty unique.
It's called an end, but I see it as a beginning, because now if we have all this information, for example, on the lichen, but also the idea of storing data within a forest, it's just a start to use this information within all our projects. We can make all our projects lichen proof and make sure that the lichen get a chance and they are kept.
I really like the STARTS residency project because it feels like a gift to our program to make our long-term vision, a gift from artists. You obtain a new way of looking at problems, looking at what happens in the city, how you can involve the larger public in your project, to talk about things that do not exist yet, but to think about when they will exist, what will happen to the city then.
I'm very excited about this collaboration because I see it's valuable for a lot of discussions that we have now and will have, I hope, in the future. And I think artistic research is a very valuable contribution in the thinking about the future of The Hague.
We appreciate this opportunity and also on all the effort that InfoArts is putting into it. It would be good if we could continue this in one way or the other.
Here in Zuid-Holland we will be one of the new European digital innovation hubs. And we already decided, based also on this experiment, that we really want to include the STARTS network in running this hub, because we really want to include this artistic perspective to come up with new visions, new prototypes, for not only implementing digital technologies in SMEs, but also in how that impacts the way of working that people will have while implementing these technologies.